Chapter 84, The Invisible Genie. Azer was stunned as the professor gripped his ear and peeled off his face like a mask. Behind it was empty. The professor continued, I am pure energy, an invisible genie. This mask is for visibility's sake only. He placed the mask on the table, but it crumbled to dust. The professor leaned over the table and his face recovered again, by attracting the dust, like small magnets. Azer couldn't believe his eyes, blurting, Professor, I thought you were a robot, like Roberto. Chuckling, the professor responded, I am a robot, a modern version of the genie, emerging from the 1001 Nights saga. He explained, in this universe, everything is composed of some amount of energy and some amount of matter. Only in extreme cases do they only consist of pure energy or pure matter. What makes the human brain unique is its power of imagination. It is pure energy, which can be materialized, as a novel, as a movie, or as a scientific theory, to become proven or rejected. At that moment, the old-fashioned phone on the windowsill rang. Answering, the professor passed the receiver to Roberto, saying, It's for you, Annabella. After saying, just come up, we are having a chat in the kitchen, he placed the receiver on the phone again. Sitting next to the phone, the cat, Felix, kept a keen eye on the street while he had also turned only one ear into Roberto's phone conversation. Roberto playfully remarked to the professor, if your cat were a sniper, your neighbors would disappear, one by one. The professor chuckled and replied, I wouldn't feel safe either. If your cat received an offer to spy on you, you'd be surprised how cheap it'd sell you. Annoyed by their banter, Felix hopped down to the floor and left the kitchen. A chill ran down Azer's spine, as he heard a familiar voice from behind saying, There you are. He turned around. It was the Blue Devil, now wearing a different dress and without her pearl necklace. Tense, he hoped the professor and Roberto would intervene if she turned hostile. Walking to the table and sitting next to Roberto, she said, We finally meet. I've heard so much about you. Unable to stop staring at her, Azer asked, How did you lose your life? With a raised eyebrow, Annabella responded, I beg your pardon. That's an interesting way to start a conversation with a lady. Azer was certain he faced the Blue Devil. He stated, I saw you at Julius Fox Castle, then firing a missile at us, then at the Swinger Club. Annabella was displeased about the Swinger Club mention. Arms crossed, she looked first at Roberto, then at the professor, and asked, Could I have an explanation, please? Relaxing, Azer leaned back, glad not to explain it. The professor, trying to avoid Annabella's piercing gaze, said, It's complicated. Unsatisfied, Annabella replied, Complicated. Try being a medical secretary for a single day, and you'll understand what is complicated. Roberto revealed, to infiltrate Julius Fox's organization, we created a copy of Annabella. But she didn't truly manage to access any vital information. Azer's assumption about Julius Fox's lack of trust in the Blue Devil seemed to be confirmed by the fact that he had equipped her with an explosive collar. He glanced at Roberto and asked, If she was working for you secretly, why did she keep pursuing us? Roberto replied, I suspect the spider had a hand in that. The objective was to gain insights into a complex clash between two women and to collect data. You can call it a social experiment if you like. With a note of discontent in his voice, Azer said, Why did she keep firing with the machine guns and missiles against me? Roberto explained, You happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He continued, Whenever two full-blood Italian girls, Annabella, and her sister, have a heated discussion with each other in the kitchen, I make a swift exit. You can never know what might come flying around. As if letting out a family secret, Annabella gave him a sidelong glance and said, "Don't exaggerate now, and don't involve my family in this." She looked at Azer and in a flirtatious tone said, "I can introduce her to you under better circumstances. My little sister, Rosabella, is such a decent girl. That girl, Topaz, is not made for you." The professor said, "I'm afraid Annabella is right. Yesterday, when I met you two in my office, I thought Topaz might have a hyperactive personality." Sitting on the sofa, her body position was shifting between disrespectfully collapsing back and leaning aggressively forward. In any discussion about any subject, with piercing eye contact, she did her best to make an impression of being sharply informed, when in reality she was concealing her lack of knowledge. He explained further, "Topaz and your personality are not compatible. Like our mutual friend Eric, Topaz lacks the brain power to complete any complicated task but is good at stepping up and stealing the show at your expense. I can't imagine anything but a toxic relationship between the two of you, with you as the victim." Azer replied in a subdued tone, "That has been the case with our trip to Berlin. Throughout, she has done her best to exert her dominance." Somehow, Azer felt that the professor's matchmaking advice was not coming from the sage he knew, but an advanced robot. To change the subject, he inquired, "Why was Alfred killed?" The professor answered, "Julius Fox utilized the yacht harbor to ferry his guests to the castle. He didn't want anyone connected to us observing it from the cottage. That's why they eliminated Alfred and set the cottage ablaze." Azer turned to the professor and asked, "What was Julius Fox's role in all of this?" The professor clarified, "What I shared about Julius Fox was accurate." He exchanged a look with Roberto and continued, "However, thanks to your hard drive, we couldn't wait for Annabella's breakthrough. Julius Fox was already manipulating paintings, including placing Van Gogh's ear in the corner and selling them on the global market. He was close to further developing his artificial intelligence technology to create a division of invisible robots." At that instant, the cat Felix reappeared in the kitchen. It leaped onto Azer's lap and settled in comfortably. Annabella tried to call the cat, "Felix, come here." Yet, the cat completely disregarded her. Azer noticed that the cat avoided both Roberto and the professor due to their robotic nature. It also ignored Annabella, who had once been its owner. Azer felt like he was face to face with the Blue Devil herself. He stood up. The professor advised, "Don't forget your glasses." He added, "Staying in touch and collaborating would be enjoyable." Azer responded, "Sure, let's see where life takes us." They could hear Azer's steps down the worn staircase, when Annabella turned to the professor and said, "Throughout this entire Julius Fox business, I have had the feeling that some powerful woman intuition was guiding Azer. Now you're telling me Topaz's brain cells aren't up to it. I've been wasting my time chasing the wrong rabbit." The professor nodded, "You are quite right. It's not Topaz, and the spider might never find out who that woman is." Topaz still had the raincoat wrapped around her to stay warm when Azer approached the back door with the cat on his arm. She looked at him with annoyance and asked, "Why did it take so long to feed a cat?" Then she noticed the box in Azer's hand and inquired, "What's that?" Azer kept it simple, a pair of glasses, a gift from the professor. Topaz took the box from Azer's hand, opened it, retrieved the glasses, and said, "Smart glasses. They can do everything a smartphone can and more." She added, "I had planned to buy a pair of these in Berlin." As she put them on, the spider activated a protocol under her name. She wasn't aware that, unknowingly, she had joined the spider's global organization and turned into a double agent inside MI6. Azer slung the war postman's leader bag over his shoulder and sat behind Topaz on the motorcycle. Felix the cat watched them from the sidewalk as they drove off. Its gaze was fixed on them until they disappeared into the darkness of the night.